Right, IM2 student, today we will start with our lesson on radical equation, day 1. Right. So then to solve each equation, remember to check for external solutions. So before we start, let's go what we mean by radical equation. So for a radical, it's a square root, right? So we get square root of x, or another way of writing is that this is, so we call this a square root. So there's a 2 there that we don't see, or we can write it in terms of an exponent, so x to the 1/2 power. Okay, and to the inverse of a radical is our square. Right, so then the x to the 2nd power. So then in order for us to eliminate the radical, so we raise this by the square power. So this is the square root of x raised to the 2nd power, or we can write it as x to the 1/2 raised to the 2nd power. Okay, this means that x 1/2 times 2, so half times 2 is 1, so that gives us x to the 1st power. So normally we would say that the square root and the square, they cancel out to 1, or we have the square root of x squared, they also cancel out to 1. It's because of this. Right? Oops, my mistake, not 1, but x. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's go on to our first example. So here we want to solve the square root of x equal to 10. So then we have a square root of x equal to 10. So we're going to solve for x, so we're going to square both sides. So the square root and the square, they cancel out, so we have x. And this is 10 squared, that means that 10 times 10 or 100. Now we need to check our work. Right, so the square root of 100 or the square root of 10 squared reduced to 10, so this is the same as that. Right, let's go on to our second example. So here we have 10 equal to square root of m divided by 10. So similar to the first one, we need to square both sides to get rid of the square root. Okay, so the square root and the square, they cancel out, so 10 squared is 100 equal to m over 10. So to solve for it, we need to time both sides by 10. So that's reduced to 1, so m equal to 10 times 100 is 1,000. Right, so to check our work, we set the square root of 1,000 over 10, so this gives us the square root of 100, and square root 100 is 10, which is the same as that. Okay, and our next example, so we have a square root of v minus 4 is equal to 3. Right? Okay. So to solve it, we're going to square both sides. Oops, that's my mistake. So we're going to square both sides. So the square and the square root, they cancel out. So we have a v minus 4 equal to 3 squared give us 9. Solve first, so v equal to 13. And to check our work, we said square root of 13 minus 4 give us square root of 9, and square root of 9 is 3, which is the same as that. Right, and our next example, okay, notice that for the first 3 examples, we have the square root on one side and the constant term on the other side, but now we have a constant term on both sides. So first we need to move the negative 8. So by adding 8 to both sides, so this becomes 0. We have a square root of 5a minus 5, and negative 3 plus 8 gives us a positive 5. And we're going to square both sides. So the square and the square root, they cancel out. So we have a 5a minus 5 equal to 5. And add 5 to both sides, so then 5a equal to 10, so a equal to 2. So now we need to check our work. So we have a negative 8 plus a square root of 5 times 2 minus 5. Oops, I see that I made a mistake because when I check my work, this gives me 10 minus 5 and negative 8 plus this is square root of 5, which is not that. So that means that there's a mistake somewhere. So let's go back and double check. I see that I made a mistake here. Okay, so let me redo this again. Right? Okay, so whenever we do work with the square root, it's always good to go back and double check our work. Right? Okay, so let's do this again. So plus 8 plus 8. So we have a square root of 5a minus 5 equal to 5. And we're going to square both sides. Right? So that's cancelled. So we have a 5a minus 5. But remember, this is 5 squared, so which gives us 25 plus 5, so 5a equal to 30. So then a equal to 6. Okay, so let's check our work to see if it worked this time. So we have negative 8 plus square root of 5 times 6 minus 5. So negative 8 plus square root 30 minus 5. So negative 8 plus square root of 25. So negative 8 plus 5 will give us a negative 3, which is the same as that. So in this case, we work out. Okay, let's go on to our next example, right? Okay, so here we have 10 times square root of 9x equal to 60. We need to isolate the square root by itself. So first we need to divide both sides by 10. So square root of 9x equal to 6. Get rid of the square root. We need to square both sides. So that's reduced. Give us 9x equal to 6 squared, 36, divided by 9, so x equal to 4. And we need to check our work. Right, so 10 square root of 9 times 4, so 10 square root of 36, so 10 times 6 give us 60, which is the same as that. Okay, so that's the end of our day 1 notes.